Combined with what we're spending fiscally, Congressman, and then you look at Jay Powell and the Fed and backstopping so many different areas. If you were an inflation hawk or a bond vigilante, it would be a time to worry about deficits and about how we're ever going to get out from under this. Somehow we're still at very low rates, and I don't know whether inflation with $10 oil, $15 oil, I don't know if that's where you worry. But what does the day of reckoning look like in your mind? Someone that in the past has been very fiscally responsible.
Yeah, so there's no question right now we have been focused on trying to reduce the economic damage from the coronavirus. We think that helps federal revenues and state and local revenues. The sooner we get back on our feet, we've tried to inject cash into those local employers, lend to the bigger ones, defer payments where we could, but just try to keep these businesses in place to ride it out. We think that gives us a stronger rebound. That makes sense, but there's no question we have poured a lot of cash into the economic side of this coronavirus challenge. None of that is free. We're fortunate that we came in here with the strongest economy on the planet, but at the end of the day, we're going to have a fiscal plan to address all of this. And beyond just the spending here for the coronavirus, we've long had a challenge of an aging country where most of the spending today and in the future will be focused on 3 or 4 key programs, none of which are financially sound. So both parties here, I think this is one of those cases where neither party can do it alone. It's going to take both of us with a real fiscal plan for the long term because none of this is free.
Hey, Kevin, I mean, you saw the optics back after the financial crisis when the government comes in and helps and helps business, helps banks, helps the financial sector. We got Dodd-Frank, we got all kinds of regulation. It's going to happen again because a lot of the companies that are going to be saved here had been doing buybacks or paying dividends or whatever. So you're going to hear the same thing that there's got to be retribution in the private sector for the public sector helping out. But at the same time, since we want growth and we don't want to hold back the private sector with punitive measures, it's going to be tough to satisfy all the different constituencies. How do you walk that line?
Yeah, so, Joe, I think this one is completely different. The bailout really was about perceived wrong. And you could point your finger at plenty of people.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. But this is not. These businesses didn't invite that. This wasn't misbehavior. Frankly, or riding the rescue. It is the private sector. Here's the lessons learned. One, when healthcare had this pandemic facing them, what's the first thing they asked for? Less regulation. Give us flexibility to address these patients where they're at, to tackle this crisis. Business has ridden to the rescue, frankly. Everything from supply chains for protective gear to testing to the vaccines and treatments. And so, no, I don't see a backlash of more regulation and more restriction based on these dollars because bottom line, they didn't cause this problem. They've been hugely helpful in addressing the healthcare challenge we have. I think the bigger picture still is what practical ways can we help businesses reopen safely as healthcare conditions permit so that we can restore principally this economy. And then we're going to have an adult conversation about how we tackle what was a problem before the crisis, which is an aging country with real healthcare needs that are driving the deficits.
Hey, Congressman Brady, the question I'd ask you, though, about all this, and I don't think we want to tax or heavily regulate things now. This would be the worst time to do that because, in fact, what we need to do more than anything is get the economy back on track. But as you said, when we do get the economy back on track, that's when we have to have this more difficult and challenging conversation. You advocated for lower corporate taxes. Again, I wouldn't advocate for higher corporate taxes today, but over the long run, you start to think about some of those corporate taxes potentially as an insurance policy, given that we now are, for example, spending all of our tax dollars to help these businesses stay in business, to hopefully keep people employed. I think we've seen now the benefit of the frontline workers who are working at the cashier line at Walmart and at Target, and there should probably be a conversation about what it means to have a living wage. And so I'm just curious, though, whether you think that those conversations are going to change and going to change even your mind about some of these issues that you might have not agreed with even 2 months ago.
So I believe we had one of the stronger economies we've seen in a long time because first, we made America competitive with those lower rates. Around the world, we became competitive in a better place to do business. Secondly, we incentivized business investment here in the U.S. in their workers and their technology and all. Thirdly, we made work pay by letting people keep more of what they earned. And with that economic growth, higher paychecks came along. I still think the worst thing we could do would be to reverse those policies because I think they were key to us having the strong economy. They're going to be even more important going forward. So I absolutely disagree with the solution of, hey, let's become less competitive. Let's take more out of what people earn. Clearly, we're going to have to have a discussion with everything on the table. I absolutely get that. But I don't think making us less competitive, less attractive, and taking more of what people earn will ultimately be the answer here.
I think we all agree. Congressman, clearly we have to find a balance because you want to have a growing economy. You don't want to tax people to death. That makes no sense either. I think what I'm asking you, though, is at some point you have to raise more revenue. Even in the best of times, we don't pay for what we currently are doing. And so how are you, as somebody who wants to be fiscally responsible, thinking about that? And specifically, how do you think about the employee? Again, the guy and woman at the checkout line who is now, I think all of us would consider a hero, who is not getting the living wage, and how that should or should not change.
Well, I believe the stronger our economy is, the stronger our wages are, the better their retirement benefits, the more likely they have health care. So I believe that the stronger we are, the better it is for the average blue-collar worker. And the last 2 years had shown those where the wage increases were going. Were the ones who were seeing the biggest pay raises. They were seeing more retirement benefits. So I don't think you punish business in order to help that blue collar worker. I think it's the opposite. We lift them together. I do think we're like any organization, I think, in that the way we get financially sound is we try to drive our revenues up as far as we can, and we try to constrain growth, certainly in the non-essential areas. But we've got to find some smart solutions for saving the really important programs, Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid, really key programs. We've got to figure out smart ways to do that while we're constraining revenue growth at the same time. And I think we can do that keeping strong benefits, helping this aging population. But again, I'll tell you, it's going to take both parties looking at both growth and constraint to get it done. And it won't be easy. I don't want to pretend it is, but we know those are what the elements are.
Hey, Congressman Brady, there is new real-time data that shows that there were 180 public companies that received money from the PPP totaling $680 million. Now, originally, when that started, that was kind of there for everyone to tap. But now that we know there are limited funds and a lot more small companies that need them, do you think that those public companies should all give the money back since they have access to the public markets that the Treasury and the Fed have kept open pretty well?
The short answer is probably yes. In the beginning, we were just about saving jobs and helping these businesses ride it out. The demand has become so huge, so fast. We really have to drive those dollars into those businesses that don't have those sources. Now, to be fair, the average loan is $200,000 in the PPP. That's a Main Street size loan, and it's been given by a local community bank. Again, we're driving a lot to small businesses, but we also ought to look at those businesses that have other sources of capital to try to free up money for those who don't. And I can tell you in our district, the companies that are using it, local businesses, their construction, their healthcare, retail, restaurant, they're just exactly the types of businesses you want to see these dollars go to. And again, at the beginning, we were just about saving jobs and helping businesses ride this out. If we can stretch these dollars even further by directing, publicly owned companies to other sources of capital, absolutely we ought to do that.
Congressman Brady, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Joe.
Okay. Well, we'll see you soon. We'll get through this and then check back and start talking about all these things. I guess
Yes,
it's going to be a big number that,
Yes,
that we're going to be looking at. I don't know where gold's going to be by then. We can only imagine. Anyway, we appreciate it. Thanks.